What's going on, people? It's Big Brexit Dave here, coming to you for the Degenerates podcast. Now, today is going to be the first episode in a new series which we're doing on this channel, which is where I, Dave, break down some of the recent fights and prepare for some of the upcoming fights. For today's one, we'll be talking about the massive fight, the Wilder Ortiz rematch, in which Deontay Wilder demonstrated why he's probably the most feared man in heavyweight boxing, probably the most feared man in all of boxing, besides Lomachenko. I'm going to be looking at how Ortiz managed to fend off that right hand so much, how Wilder managed to finally land that right hand, finally land that knockout, and what it really means for the rest of boxing. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's have a quick summary of what happened before I get into breaking down how Ortiz managed to really win every round before Wilder knocked him out, and as well as the knockout itself. To start with, that fight was a demonstration of why Wilder is definitely the hardest hitting puncher in boxing right now. He didn't land the right hand at all that fight. Didn't really land any power punches at all that fight. And all he needed was one. The short right hand down the middle crunched Ortiz. Didn't even land him on the chin. And Ortiz couldn't get up from that. I actually thought that the ref should have let Ortiz fight on. He looked like he was okay. He looked like he was okay after the fight as well during the conferences and stuff. But realistically, if he had let him get up, it probably would have only lasted another 15 seconds. Which is, I guess that's why he didn't let it continue. But if you guys have watched the preview to it, I said that Ortiz would be vulnerable to that right because he's a southpaw, and what happened? He was vulnerable to the right because he's a southpaw. But it really didn't reflect how well Luis Ortiz fought during that fight. He did an excellent job of shutting down Deontay Wilder's offense. That was really the first time that Wilder had any sort of opening in the entire fight was during the knockout. And that was kind of all down to Ortiz. Technically, Ortiz is one of the best fighters in the heavyweight division, and he kind of proved that last night. Wilder couldn't land anything. Didn't matter if it was right, didn't matter if it was left, he just couldn't land anything. And I'm going to break down why that's the case. I'm going to give you a few examples on the screen as well. So that's going to be interesting. You guys are actually going to see that I actually have knowledge about this thing instead of just chatting shit. Oh, fucking hell. Before I get into explaining it, I just want to say, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I'm English, so, man doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving, but I know Dan is currently halfway down a fucking turkey drinking as much moonshine as he fucking wants to. But yeah, right. Let's break down why Ortiz was so successful. Now, before we break down anything that Ortiz did, we have to look at how he approached Wilder. Now, Wilder has a very side-on stance. Obviously, you have to be slightly side-on in boxing, but his is almost completely side-on, which means that when he throws the right, he generates a lot of torque. His body has to twist fully in order to throw that right hand effectively, which is part of the reason why it's so devastating, because he's literally throwing his entire body into everything when he throws that right hand. And also the fact that he brings his right hand so far back because of his stance. It means that right hand has so far to travel, has so much force to generate that, it results in devastating one-punch knockout power. That's partly because of the torque and partly because everything's in a straight line. That wide stance, that wide side-on stance means that in order for him to land the right hand, his opponent literally has to be straight in front of him. And, working on that linear kind of punching line, it means that there's really no force lost when Wilder's throwing out. If he's coming wide, a lot of the force is going out to the side instead of straight on. But if he throws it as straight as he possibly can, then all that force is being generated, being channeled into that right, and his opponent is feeling the full force of that right hand, everything that he's putting into it. But in order to land that right hand, he needs to measure where his range is, and he does that with his left. If you look at, I'll have some examples on the screen right now. but he always paws with his left. He judges with his left. He touches his opponent with his left before he releases the right. The left is kind of an indicator of, whether he's in range or not, where the distance of the opponent is, because as you know, a cross right will reach further than your straight left. So if he's got the range to land the left, then he's 100% got the range to fully land that right. And what Ortiz did, which really, really messed up Wilder, was that he never fully allowed that left hand to judge that left hand to be in range. He was using what would be his right hand, using his right hand to kind of paw the left hand, constantly knocking it away, pushing it away, just kind of blocking it, catching it, so that Wilder never really could judge that he was in distance. And he also knew that, I think everybody knows in boxing, that when Wilder he's looking to throw the right, he throws the left out. He throws the left out constantly. Yes, he's judging his whole fight on see if he can find a range with the left, but anytime he throws the right, he throws that left out a bit more forcefully. And that gave an indicator to Ortiz that the right hand's coming. And every single time the right hand came, he knew it was coming, so he could slip on the outside of it. And which is why we saw him land a lot of the left hands during the fight, was because he was slipping the right, which left Wilder wide open for the left, whether it was left over the top or it was left to the body. That's one thing that's very common with Deontay Wilder, is that he overthrows, he overextends with that right hand. Because he generates so much power, because he's looking for that knockout, he overthrows the right, which leaves him wide open, wherever the opponent wants to hit him. That's only if he slips it right. Whether he wants to hit the left hand over the top or the left hand to the body. And Ortiz did a very, very good job of that. He also did a very good job of getting on the outside of the lead foot. Now, because Wilder's stance is so wide, that lead leg is kind of like I wouldn't say a wall, but it's kind of like a stopping point. It means that anytime he wants to throw anything, he has to push that lead leg out. And what Ortiz did is he got on the outside, his lead foot got on the outside, so that he could avoid that right hand coming across. It's a lot harder to hit the right hand completely across your body than just slightly across. But two, he kind of used his right hand to push up at the left and almost block the right hand from coming. So he wasn't afraid of the counter coming. So then he could use the left to jab to the chest, to punch the body, to maybe even get up to the head at some point. But he really neutralized the counter punch, the counter right that Wilder would normally throw, because he couldn't throw it because his fucking left hand was in the way. That's a very, very good technical aspect of it. And the main reason why he was so effective during that fight is because he got through the mindset that he always expected the right to come. If you always expect the right to come, when that right comes, you're going to be able to deal with it. And we saw that every single time Wilder tried to throw that right. He was slipping on the outside. He was getting on the outside of his lead foot, and he was throwing jabs to the chest, to the body. He was really pissing Wilder off. And the only time he didn't do that was when the knockout happened. Wilder kept having to guess his range. And when you guess your range as a boxer, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to find it. And he knew that Wilder wasn't patient enough and wasn't smart enough to know that if he throws the right and he doesn't have the range, he leaves himself even more wide open. And again, the only reason the KO happened is because he switched his whole style. Maybe this was the factor of where the age came in for Ortiz. Is because instead of using that offhand to make sure that Wilder wasn't in range, and so then he could slip it on the outside, he didn't slip on the outside. He just used head movement. He didn't block the left hand. And I'll show an example of that in a minute when we fully break down what happened with the KO. But it really shows that Ortiz, despite being the age of 40, 41, he is still one of the best boxers in the heavyweight division. I put him on the same kind of... I wouldn't put him as highly ranked as Tyson Fury in terms of technical boxers. I think Tyson Fury is one of the best technical boxers in the world, regardless of class. But what he was good enough to expose even more flaws in Wilder's game. I mean, everybody knows that Wilder is not technically the better boxer. I think you can name on both hands 10 better technical boxers in the heavyweight division alone than Deontay Wilder. But the reason why he's so effective is because he has that bailout. He has that great right hand that shuts people down. And again, we just have to quote what he says. His opponents have to be perfect for every single second of that fight, and Wilder has to be perfect for one. Right, so the moment you guys have probably all been watching this video for is what happened with the KO. Ortiz was controlling the fight. He won every single round. He was up on the judges' scorecards. I saw one of the judges scored it 4-2, which is fucking mental to me. I don't think Wilder won any of those rounds at all. But for someone that was dominating the fight so much, how did he get knocked out so quickly? Well, Ortiz, as I've said before, Ortiz had controlled the fight by shutting down Deontay Wilder's offense. He didn't allow that left hand to kind of get the range that was required to throw the right. So he was constantly guessing with the right, and Ortiz was slipping on the outside and countering with his left. But what happened was Ortiz didn't keep his hand up with Wilder when he threw that left. It's probably about 15 seconds to go, and Wilder was throwing the left. He was throwing the left, and he didn't keep his right hand up. Ortiz was just relying on head movement to kind of dodge it. And so what that allowed Wilder to do is allowed Wilder to get into range, and he was just lightly touching Ortiz, just lightly touching him on the nose. And that was a green light moment. Wilder saw it and went, "Hang on, it's open here. I'm in range." And he throws the jab again. And again, Ortiz just uses head movement. And then he goes, "Right, okay, I'm definitely in range now." And if we go down to the shot, he throws the left, obviously, because that's what Wilder does. But Ortiz parries the left, but then doesn't get out the way. He's just relying on head movement at this point. Maybe this is something to do with whether he got tired because he was pushing the tempo in this fight. But he just relies on head movement. He doesn't do what he's been doing the entire fight. He doesn't rely on what's been working the entire fight. He just relies on the head movement. He just blocks it, and he's expecting the right to come to the side because he puts his arm up to block it. But what happens is that Wilder throws that right straight as an arrow, right down the middle, and it catches him on the temple and lights out, So what it actually proves is that Wilder can't technically box, but he knows how to throw the right hand. And honestly, that's all he really needs. We've seen it time and time again. Doesn't matter how good you are technically, if he's got that right hand and he has the opening and he throws it right, then you're going to be on the floor. We saw it with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, the best technical boxer in the heavyweight division. The lineal heavyweight champion. Got knocked down twice because of the right hand. Completely outclassing him. Got knocked down twice because of the right hand. Luis Ortiz, much better technical boxer than Deontay Wilder. He actually had him hurt in that 7th round. Leading all the rounds, including the 7th, before that knockdown. And he made one simple mistake. One tiny mistake that even most professional fighters would be like, well, that's not really that relevant. But because he's going against Deontay Wilder, it is massively relevant. He just used head movement. Instead of doing what he'd been doing the entire fight, he relied on something that would work against almost everyone else in the heavyweight division, bar the man in front of him. And what happened? He paid the price. And he paid the price. The massive short right coming right down the middle, knock him on the forehead. And, fight's over. For me, I think that we have to start asking the question of, is Wilder the hardest hitting boxer of all time? But we've never seen somebody so technically flawed consistently knock out opponents that are much better than him. If you watch Wilder doesn't throw body shots. Wilder isn't somebody that tries to, just use his IQ and use his intelligence to outbox you. He couldn't give a shit if he loses a round. Couldn't give a shit if he loses the entire fight. All he's looking for is an opportunity to throw the straight right down the middle. I mean, I fully believe that if that fight had gone to 12 rounds, Ortiz would have won every single fucking round. But that's the point. Wilder doesn't let it get to a decision because of that massive power that he's got. I mean, Tyson was different. Mike Tyson was somebody that, he was one of those heavyweight boxers which, tight guard, and he looked to break you down with body shots. Wilder's just somebody that, all he's looking for is one opportunity. And if he lands it on the button, then it's game over. The accuracy that he has with his right hand is really, really underestimated. I don't think people quite realize how hard it is to consistently throw as hard as you can in the right area. He plans his entire fight on landing the right hand. I know many heavyweights that would have got in the ring with Ortiz, and had Ortiz boxed that same way, they would have been knocked out in the 4th or 5th. But Wilder's different. Wilder demonstrated last night that he is one of the top 3 heavyweights in the world for sure. I think people kind of doubted it, simply because because Wilder's fought a lot of people that aren't really relevant. The only 2 fights he has on his resume that people would really count are the Ortiz fight and the Tyson Fury fight, in which both of them he was clearly outclassed in terms of boxing. But Wilder doesn't, again, I'll make the point, Wilder doesn't give a shit. He couldn't give a shit if I say that he's terrible at boxing. He could give a shit that Teddy Atlas says that you can exploit him 900 ways under the sun. He couldn't give a shit. That's not how he fights. He's not one of those fighters. He fights to land the power shot. He fights to land the right hand. He's consistently putting away better and better opponents. I think if he beats Fury in February, which I don't see happening, but if he does beat Fury in February, then it's going to be a real wake-up moment. Because Fury is definitely the best boxer in the heavyweight division. There's no debate in that whatsoever. But if Wilder can put away Fury, his confidence is already sky high. His confidence is going to go fucking astronomical. Because he's like, I just knocked out the best boxer in my division. And I'm nowhere near that boxing ability. Like, who's got a fucking chance against me, On the other side of things, I think Fury will be looking at this and will be chomping at the bit to get to Deontay Wilder. I think Wilder is a better boxer than what he was 18 months ago. Well, not 18 months, a year ago. I think he's a much better boxer than what he was a year ago. I think he demonstrated it tonight. Not tonight, but, during the fight. But Fury is a different class. I mean, Fury came after losing, 200 pounds, 250 pounds from the brink of suicide, brink of depression, and completely and utterly outclassed Deontay Wilder in his own backyard. It's been a year since then. Fury's had 2 more fights since then. I think, is it 2 more or is it 3 more? I'm not sure. He's had more time to get back to what his level was when he fought Klitschko in Berlin. If he's anywhere near that standard, if he somehow got better than how he fought Wilder, I think we could even see a Tyson Fury KO. Now, I think if Tyson Fury goes looking for the knockout, that's where it's going to land him in trouble. Because Ortiz started to look for the knockout. He started to go off his game plan. He started to get in range, and ultimately he paid the price for that. And if you watch the first Wilder Fury fight, Fury again, he started to look for the knockout. He started to take a bit more risks, and Wilder saw that, and Wilder punished him for it. But if Fury makes it a boring fight, if Fury uses his jab, uses his technical ability to just make sure Wilder gets absolutely nowhere near him, then either 2 things will happen. One, Wilder will get nowhere near him. He'll gas out, and Fury will just pick him off in a late round. Or Wilder will get nowhere near him, gas out, and Fury will just win it on decision. Will win an easy decision. It's up to how Fury boxes, really, personally. But last night was just another indication that you can beat Wilder as long as you avoid the right hand. But nobody that's ever fought Wilder has avoided the right hand, so it's a lot harder than people think it is. I think this video's been a fucking mess, personally. If you're still listening right now, congratulations to you. But I kind of did this off the cuff of trying to explain using my technical knowledge of why I think Wilder won the fight. I think I did pretty well personally. I know I've got off track a little bit, started repeating myself a little bit, but I feel like you guys definitely gained some more boxing knowledge from watching this. I'm gonna watch it back, probably cringe at myself, but can improve from here. More of these episodes are going to be coming. I don't know whether there'll be a podcast episode this weekend. There probably won't be. There'll be another Dave's Deep Dives coming probably at the end of the week. I'll be talking about why I think Mayweather shouldn't return. I know a lot of people think it's fucking great for boxing, but I don't think it is at all. But anyway, yeah, I'll get more into it during that. I know that Dan is going to start a series as well called Dan's Rants. I don't know when that's coming, but it will be here eventually. It just depends on whether he can fucking be asked to do it and whether his throat's healed up. But yeah, that's going to be the end of it. I hope you guys did enjoy. Leave comments down below on what you think of the fight, how you thought it went, and what do you think of the video? What do you think I can improve on? What you like, what you didn't like, etc. Yeah, there'll be another video coming out Saturday, Sunday time. And yeah, like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, share with your friends, and see you later.